Today, we'll discuss how Lowe's built an enterprise class centralized price management solution on Google Cloud Platform. My name is Vikas Saini, and I'm an enterprise cloud architect at Google Cloud. Joining me today for this session is the Vice President of Merchandising Technology at Lowe's Companies, Ron Baker. Thank you for joining, Ron. How are you doing today?
Hey, Vikas, doing very well. Excited to be here today and share what we've been working on in our pricing space and how we're investing and really advancing in our technology. So, should be a great session and looking forward to it.
Great. So, Ron, before we start, can you share some information about Lowe's with us?
Absolutely. Lowe's is a very exciting company. Overall one of the top Fortune 50 companies with stores in both the U.S. and Canada, and we have a global workforce as well. And one thing that really excites me about Lowe's, just the investment that we're continuing to make in technology, and how technology is really key to helping the company to achieve our goals. And I feel very blessed to be leading both our product and engineering teams for the merchandise technology portfolio. Just a lot of great things going on. And, as we're going to talk today about pricing, just one of many areas that we're continuing to invest in. And, we continue to seek and hire top technology talent as well. And, we're expanding in both our US and Bangalore locations. So technology has just never been more exciting than now within Lowe's. And it's a great journey to be on. One other thing I'll call out is that we're in our second year of a multi-year technology transformation, and we're building a Lowe's Tech Hub and right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So a lot of growth going on, and looking to hire close to 2,000 additional technologists for that facility, and just excited about the growth and the opportunity that we have going on here within Lowe's.
Yeah, no, I agree. Lowe's is a very exciting company, and we are very thankful for the partnership. So let's look at the agenda for today. So we'll briefly discuss the centralized price use case, go over the solution that was created for this use case. We'll also talk about the benefits that Lowe's was able to achieve after implementing the solution. We'll briefly touch the roadmap for the next phase of the solution, and then finally, we'll wrap up. So let's start with the use case overview. Saran, I'll ask you this. Can you please tell us about the use case and any pain points that you are trying to address with this solution?
Yeah, let's. I'll kind of walk through it in three main areas. As you can imagine, Vikas, for a company our size, the number of products, the channels that we serve, the customers that we serve, pricing is a extremely complex area, and we had to start off with we had this challenge where we had multiple sources of truth for our prices, and this created a lot of issues with just how we were managing across the various channels. And so we had to spend some time to really understand that complexity. And we knew we needed a single source of truth to really take us, to where we wanted to be and managing this more effectively. The second thing is we needed to really put together better visibility and controls in place so that we're more consistent with our prices and how those prices are set up across all the channels. That was another significant gap that we had as we were looking at just some of these use cases and the challenges that were in front of us. The third is really around, we had to improve how we execute our price changes. We needed to leverage a single source of truth, but then take that to the next level in terms of how do we execute more effectively and really getting the right prices in the right place at the right time. As you can imagine, speed was really the key here, right? How do we do that in the most effective way to really take us to where we needed to be? So, as we went through our city's challenges, these are really foundational to trying to determine what's the right technology that we choose. And my hats off to our product management organization and working with our business partners to really outline these challenges in a way that our technology teams could really take these and determine what is the right technology solution that we need in order to enable this. And when you look at the complexity of the business, with our prices, as I mentioned before, this was a difficult task that we had in front of us, and we were, really diving in to understand these challenges and figure out how do we move forward to solving them in the most effective way.
It's a very interesting use case. So let me ask you this. Why did you choose Google Cloud as a platform for this solution?
Yeah, our team really stepped back when we were looking at, again, these use cases and the challenges that we had in front of us. And we went through an evaluation of various technologies. And one thing that is really part of our culture is we go through proof of concepts. And in this case, we actually ran two things in parallel. We were looking at all open source technology, and then we were looking at some of the components within Google Cloud to really kind of test this out and see how does the technology really help us to solve the business problem and in the most effective way. And so the teams did this very rapidly, went through these proof of concepts, and this is just culturally what we do as an organization to ensure that what we're selecting is the most effective. And so we ended up selecting Google Cloud, and really three main reasons that I'll describe here of why we did that. First, you got to think about having the right architecture that enabled flexibility was key behind this. And when you take a something like pricing, which is a very, very critical component to your retail business, and looking at how you scale that, we needed the right architecture and flexibility to enable us to do that. That was number one. Number two, leveraging some of Google's managed services like Spanner and PubSub was another key element to this. And one of the things that when we look at our engineering team, we want to make sure that we're building and delivering new capabilities for the business as much as possible. And by leveraging Spanner and PubSub, uh, we didn't have to spend a lot of time on and worry about having to upgrade the underlying technology, to support the overall solution. So it really enabled our engineers to focus on building out these capabilities and driving value for the business, which is what we want. The third thing I'll call out is around some of the analytics, and by having our data in a more centralized location and solution, we're able to get a lot more valuable insights into just how we're performing and where we at in the life cycle. And so that was really the third area that was key for us. And understanding that performance and how we take immediate action is really what helped us to make that decision. And Google was really key to helping us get there as soon as possible. So again, I'll just say hats off to our engineering teams and the Google team, partnering together to get us to this point and helping us as we made this selection to really move us forward in the most effective way.
All right, so you heard from Ron on the use case and the pain points. Now let's discuss the solution that was built to solve this. So this solution is built leveraging some of the technology from a retail common services platform. So before showing you the actual architecture, I'll quickly go over some of the design principles for this solution. One of the key architecture principles of this solution is that it's completely event-based architecture. So most of the traditional architectures are batch-based. Right? All of the upstream events are actually written to the central event source. So as you would expect, the event source has to be highly available. This event source then publishes events for other downstream systems to use. You're also able to filter the events into a central system for fast querying from other applications that need access to this data. In parallel, you can also load the events from the system for analytics and learning and analysis. So if you want to give access to this data for your data engineering team or your data science team to build models, to do any sort of analysis or reporting, they're able to do that without affecting the core system. And lastly is you can also play back the events from the archive if needed. So if you ever need to go back and look at the chronological order of events, how they occurred, you're able to do that with the system. So let's look at the architecture. So this slide shows the architecture for the solution. So as you'll see, there's a lot of detail here. I'll go over some of the key components at a very high level. The first step is price optimization. So this is where we classify price for items such as base price, markdown price, discounts, etc. So as you would expect, every item or every SKU needs to have a price optimization process. After the price optimization, the next step is data transformation. So ETL, if you will. So we use a data flow for data transformation, and we also have like a parser to format and parse the data. Once the data is transformed, it is ingested into Cloud Spanner. So Cloud Spanner has the benefit of true time. And what that means is that it easily lets you add a globally consistent timestamp for all of your events. So the benefit for the solution is that this establishes a ground truth of the order of all of your messages for all time. This means that you can make downstream assumptions anchored on that ground truth, which solves a lot of complexity for dependent systems and services. Up next are the event-based triggers that pull this data into the messaging queue from Cloud Spanner. And our messaging queue is Cloud PubSub. So this is the layer where the records are filtered and written to a centralized messaging queue, PubSub. And the benefit of this is that the multiple subscribers can be registered to get data from this messaging publishing queue. One of the main subscribers is the master publish view. The data or the events are loaded to a corresponding low latency database or materialized view for easy query access. This has to be like a really low latency database. So think of it like an in-memory database or a really low latency NoSQL database. It just depends on the size of the database. We've actually tested this pattern for millions of records and millions of products, and this holds pretty well. And one of the main reasons why we're able to do that is because we are able to separate the writes from the reads. In parallel, we also have the archiver, which writes these events to a global archive called cloud storage in a compressed state. And then corresponding to the archiver is a replayer. So replayer then reads the records in order of the long-term storage and then decompresses them and loads them into a new ClubPub stream. So if you ever need to go back and look how the events were loaded into the system, how you got certain data, what was the chronological order of all the events, you're able to easily do that with the replayer. And lastly, we also have the ability to make one-off price changes using the price UI. This price UI goes through the centralized API and writes the information into Cloud Spanner. And once the information is in Cloud Spanner, it goes through the same process of pushing the data to master publish view and to the archiver that we just discussed. So hopefully this gives you an overview of the solution that was created to solve this use case. All right, so let's move on to the benefits of this solution. So Ron, let me ask you this. Now that the solution is live, can you please share some of the benefits that you've seen so far?
Absolutely. The first thing that we accomplished was really getting that centralized view of all the key components for pricing for all channels. And as I mentioned earlier, Vikas, that was one of the challenges we had of just trying to manage this across multiple systems, and getting that single view was absolutely key to us and achieving that benefit. The second is increasing our speed to market for the price changes and enabling just a lot more efficiencies for how we're making those changes. Again, you go across multiple systems. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of coordination, and getting us centralized improves our speed to market so we can do that much more effectively. And then a third that I'll call out is really around the ability to be proactive and just managing our price changes, and knowing that our price changes have been executed. As you can imagine, our store associates, they're dealing with a lot in the stores, just making sure they're serving customers. So when we're thinking about the pricing and how we send our prices down to the stores to execute. We want that to be as efficient as possible. And one of the key benefits here is it's made us a lot more effective with how we, prioritize those changes and how much we're sending down to our stores so that they can be more effective at implementing the necessary prices that we actually need. So, just a tremendous progress here, and definitely, getting a lot of benefit out of the capabilities that have been put in place.
So now that you're getting all these benefits, Ron, what are your plans for the new features and functionalities that you're looking to add to the solution as we move forward?
Yeah, we're going to spend some time, focused on really these three main areas I'll walk through. First is around our price performance and some of our price change analytics. When we look at the number of price changes and how those prices are performing in the markets, how our customers are responding. That's one area that we want to continue to build out and enhance more for the overall solution. The second area is around price governance and some of the audit capabilities. Again, I'll reflect back to some of the complexities we had with multiple systems and how do we have the right visibility, the number of users that can make changes to our prices. It was very complex and very difficult to manage. And so this foundation we have in place now is really positioned us well so that we can more effectively track and control how those prices are handled. And so we'll continue to enhance that functionality as we move forward. And then the third area that I would call out just around price testing and measurement, and how we put our prices in market and getting the results back and measuring the effectiveness of that is absolutely key. And we'll leverage this foundation in place to build upon so that we get more effective measurement and understand how we're progressing going forward. So ultimately, we want to ensure that we're putting forward the best price for our customers at the right time at the right channel. And the foundation we now have in place is going to be key to helping us continue that priority in that journey.
All right, so as you heard from Ron, this pattern provides many important benefits over traditional architecture. So the first one is global consistency. So Cloud Spanner has the benefit of true time. So it easily lets you add a globally consistent timestamp for each of your events. So this establishes a ground truth of the order for all of your messages at all time. And you can have your downstream systems work with that assumption, which is a huge benefit and solves a lot of complexity for those downstream systems. The next one is high availability. So multi-region writes are necessary for systems that run in multiple places, east or west, disaster recovery. But multi-region writes are also great for sending events from a single system in the data center to multiple systems that run in the stores in this example, or vice versa. So for things like price, inventory tracking, real-time sales metrics, this is important to have high availability across the board. And as you mentioned earlier, we've actually tested this solution for millions and millions of products across channel, and the solution holds pretty well. So if you have some very stringent SLAs and you want to make sure that the performance doesn't degrade when you're using millions of record, then this solution is probably the right one for you. And then as Rod mentioned earlier as well, is this lets you focus on the strategic tasks. And the dev teams are focused on building business logic or the business value directly associated with the use case, and not worry about some of the operational tasks of keeping the servers up, scaling them up or down, because the system takes care of that. This results in quicker time to market and much lower total cost of ownership for the solution. I want to again thank Ron Baker, Vice President of Merchandising Technology at Lowe's Companies, for sharing the information and his thoughts with us. And to you, thank you for listening to our presentation. Hope you found the content useful.
I just want to say, add to that, Vikas, thanks for the partnership here with Google, and really appreciate the opportunity to speak to what we've been able to accomplish here in the pricing area. Like I mentioned in the introduction, Lowe's advancing our business with technology like never before, and I'm excited to see so many capabilities like pricing, enabled, and proud of what our teams have been able to accomplish with this modern technology. So I hope all of you as well got some valuable insights into the content, and I want to thank all of you for your time today.